All right, hello. Welcome to the Modern Thought Room. My name is Jethro. In this episode, it's going to be about a skill that I believe is easily overlooked in our personal development and professional development. But if we just make some changes and prioritize it, it can make a big difference in how we show up and the impact that we have, right? And what is that skill? Boom, teaching. Teaching. The skill and ability to teach is a tremendous difference maker. And I think when you think about your own personal development and professional development, your ability to teach is something that you should be honing because it trains you, but then it also does something in the person that is receiving the knowledge. So we're going to go through it real quick, but I hope that even just with that kind of quick heads up, that's something you go and prioritize, whether you continue on with the video or not. Go and prioritize your skill of teaching, right? Whenever you have an instance and opportunity to go and hone and develop that skill, or you'll benefit from it tremendously. All right. So teaching is about knowledge transfer. All right. So something knows a bunch of information, knows the knowledge, and they are teaching it to essentially, ideally, someone who doesn't know it, right? Or doesn't know it well enough or in the depth or in the complexity as they do, right? Teaching is also about skill transfer. Knowledge and skill is different. Knowledge, is the information piece. Skill is the action, the ability piece, right? So somebody may have a detailed, experienced knowledge of a skill or the confidence and ability in a skill, and they can transfer that skill to someone, and now someone has that same skill. The person could have that same skill and maybe not the same breadth of knowledge about the skill and the things around it, maybe through experience, maybe through access, what have you. But skill is something that is also often taught. Teaching is also about mindset transformation. Those can be those can be like split apart and kind of presented as two different points. But mindset transformation, I've just decided to keep them together. Teaching is also about mindset transformation. You thought a particular way, it impacted your behavior. Now someone comes in and is teaching you how to think differently, and the thinking differently piece is then what produces a due impact or outcome in your life, right? Now those are the three main sort of benefits of teaching that I'm going to focus on and that I think are top of mind. There may be more. There could be arguments for more, nuance, but those three kind of big ones: knowledge, skill, and mindset, right? So while teaching, right, serves this primary job to equip, right, it also serves, and then again, this is what I believe is sort of deprioritized and overlooked in this, um, is the ability for it to inspire or empower, right? Teaching empowers, right? So why do I say that this is something you should be thinking about your ability to teach as you think about your um, personal development and professional development, right? Because if you are able to empower others, that is a degree of influence and confidence and contribution that you will be able to show in whatever given space you're in, right? And that can have a very fulfilling feeling for you. That could bring a lot of fulfillment, but also it could also bring monetary reward if that is a primary aim, right? But either way, understanding that your ability to teach is also linked to your ability to empower others is a big thing, because folks oftentimes need more empowerment than probably they would say, right? The average person, I think they are often, we, myself also included in this average person, find ourselves in situations where we do look to other people to empower us. That might not be ideal, All right. We ideally we would want to all be, already fully equipped, jazzed up, ready to go, and not need that empowerment from somebody else, right? But we're not perfect. We have shortcomings. We have different backgrounds. We have different contexts. And so when we have those people that are able to teach us and empower us, that is able to make a big transformation in many people's lives, right? So when you're able to connect, you've been, for example, trying to get fit on your own, you connect with a physical trainer, a coach, um, you get a gym partner, and they're able to teach you things to then help you take that step forward. But in the process, what they're doing is they're passing on information, skills, or helping you transform your mindset. So now you feel more in control of your circumstances. I think I probably should have summarized it with that at the beginning. When someone teaches you, ideally, best case scenario, also, they should make you feel like you are now more in control of your circumstances, right? More in control. So, teaching in that way enhances and helps people cast vision, right? See things beyond and broader than what they are immediately seeing. So if you're at work, you work in a technical space, someone might only know the most immediate use for an application. You, on the other hand, may know abstract purposes that are down the line and will constitute innovation. You knowing, right, that innovation is what is kind of like currency in the tech space, you giving that person a window into how to identify opportunities so that they can create innovation themselves, and they can do that, now frees them to look beyond just the immediate use of whatever application software, what have you. Right? Sometimes people don't do this because sometimes people call it gatekeeping. People don't want to see other people succeed, blah, 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 blah. But there are people out there, and I believe there's quite many more than sometimes we feel like there are, that do want to empower others, but they may not actually understand that they aren't taking the time to hone and develop their ability to teach things, right? Somebody asks you how to do something, you fumble to explain it. And it could be a simple thing. It could be a basic thing. It could be something around the house. It could be something about fashion. It could be something about cooking. It could be anything. All of these are touch points and opportunities for you to hone that skill in a professional and also a personal context, right? So in a professional way, you have countless opportunities where there are people in your organization that don't know the ins and outs of every single thing, and that you may have an advantage or a better understanding in that area, and you can share that with them. And when you're sharing that, you can focus on how you are teaching them in order to kind of set them free rather than have to come back to you. Personally, again, those other basic examples, um, you are now building up a foundation where you have, endless skills and endless use for those skills and endless ways that you see those skills stacking up to an ultimate end, aka a vision, right? So very important to understand that when we think about our personal development, professional development, we're thinking about always about us acquiring, developing those things, developing through acquisition. Right? We sometimes then can overlook and not realize the value that we ourselves would benefit from teaching, right? Sharing, providing insight. And that's a thing, I think, a very important way for folks that want to become leaders, folks that are aspiring leaders, folks that are already leaders or think themselves to be leaders. It's how well do you teach? All right. How well do you teach? And do you understand that part of what you're doing when you are teaching is you are empowering folks, right? So again, with that cast of vision, broader vision, teaching shows possibility, right? Teaching shows possibility. When somebody gains new knowledge, new skills, their mindset changes, now they really understand what possibilities exist. And every scenario now that they come across, they are now feeling more equipped and more able to discern what options are actually available. So they don't always feel like they only got one choice. And if they even want to make that choice, then everything falls apart. Right. So, how do I come up against a situation when I'm missing key skills, knowledge, transformative mindsets, and I have to make a decision where really I could make multiple decisions in that matter. But for me, I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, I really only got one choice. I just gotta I gotta do this, right? Whereas I actually probably had more options, more choices. And unfortunate things is those types of moments really can have a big impact on people's lives and set folks back for a while. And I think it as I get older, something that let me actually not lie. I'm thinking about it now. Let me tell the truth on this. I in a way, let me see. I gotta say this. I've always had empathy for folks when I was younger, but it was a lot of like like was it window shopping or like observing bystander, like standing out, like observing. I felt, in my heart, man, that's a tough situation for them. But as you get older and as I've grown older, you kind of run into two different kind of paths where people want help and people don't want help, right? But I think one thing that happens is you can kind of get jaded when folks don't want help. And then you feel like, there's no need for me to actually know how to share information and teach because folks don't actually want my perspective or input here. And when you think about your personal development, particularly personal development, professional development, it's probably maybe less. The percentage of that is probably a little bit lower, just because there's still end goals. There are still very tangible end goals, and if you're part of a collective, people still want to get to those goals. Whereas personal development, that's where that becoming jaded can make you not actually show up in people's lives the way that you would like to and that you ultimately could. And what's the big consequence? That it's a limited fulfillment in life over time, and relationships that don't become as robust as they can, right? And those have endless consequences, right? So let me get back on track. Mm, Teaching hands keys over. I wrote that, but I think I probably need to find a better way of phrasing that. Teaching hands keys over. So it takes things from this mysterious space where there's ownership and limited kind of purview and um, a sort of monopoly on insight, a monopoly on direction. And it hands over the keys and says, hey, you can develop, you can build, you can find an insight, you can do something better than I can at some point. At some point, you can do something better than me at some point with what I've just given you, with the knowledge, with the skills, with the mindset transformation, with any one of those and all three. You can do something that will supersede what I've done, where you have met me at in this moment. And again, that's something that both personally and professionally, when we're thinking about our development, maybe that's not in our path, right? We do want the skills, we do want the ability, we do want the knowledge, but maybe we're not thinking about how we want others around us to be transformed just by our presence in their lives, just by them encountering us, right? And that's a big thing, right? And teaching puts the learner in the driving seat. And this is a thing that it's a subtle thing. And I'll say something that's, again, it's going to be real subjective. It's a subtle thing. Good educators, good teachers know good teachers, and they also know bad teachers. And one of the things, right, when you genuinely care about somebody and their well-being and their outcomes, you want to give them an autonomy that's detaches their like they're not dependent to you, and they're not even dependent solely to whatever knowledge or insight you've given them. They'll go beyond this, and this is more so of the mindset transformation, right? So being in the driver's seat means I have all these things in front of me. I'm at the wheel, and now I feel like I can actually make turns, and whatever turn I make, I've made it for a reason, and I'm heading in place ultimately. Whereas sometimes I might be in the back seat. It might be my life, but I'm in the back seat. It could be my life, my career, my profession, but I'm in the back seat, and that shouldn't be how it is, right? And sometimes many of us can attest to this. There's somebody that we've met in our lives that has come along that has shared something with us, and the way that they shared it, aka the teaching, the way that they shared it has given us a license to reclaim some autonomy in our life. And that is a very important thing in order for us to get to become who we believe we can ultimately be, reaching our potential, what have you. So teaching puts the learner in the driving seat, right? And then teaching ultimately pushes action. It connects the dots. It helps folks connect the dots to then show them where their next place of action can be, right? Sometimes people don't know how to take action because they actually haven't mapped out a field of where opportunity and consequences are. Sometimes the whole map look like consequences, like negative consequences, right? They're like, yo, they're like, man, there are so many negative consequences if I make the wrong move that I'm about to just not make any moves, right? And they don't have a clear um, understanding of the landscape enough to say, oh, I have these fail safes already because of this, this, and this. This might, reap some positive benefit, but this has some challenge to it, but can reap the most benefit. Okay, I didn't realize I had these options, choices, and lanes and ways I could pursue something because in my original scope, everything was dark, everything was consequences, negative consequences at that. All right. And then ultimately, across all the stuff I've been saying, teaching ultimately transforms, right? Teaching ultimately transforms. So when you're thinking about your own personal development track, your own professional development track, do not hesitate to also evaluate where you are as somebody that teaches and how you can grow in that and ultimately see the benefits down the line when you are having a transformative impact in other people's lives. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Adios. Ciao. Bye.